And I think, when you're talking of feelings, when do they start? I noticed Sammy put a little post-it note out there about body language. How do we notice when the feelings are there? How do we notice when someone comes to the car and they're feeling happy? How do we notice those feelings? And that is one of the skills that we need and we've got, but we don't sometimes realize that we've actually got them. And we do it all the time. It is people's body language, their demeanor, what they're saying, what they're talking about, how we can actually notice that can actually help us decide which path to take. And that might help Anthony out a little bit with what he was saying. How does that body language or tone of voice or even the speed of voice, how does that help us understand what the actual learner client is thinking or feeling?
Yeah.
You're going live, by the way. You're back on Facebook.
Fantastic. Welcome back. This is part 3. I'll try and name them all and put links in afterwards. We have got some other training to do this afternoon, so I don't know how that's going to go, but I will try and make it easier for people coming a little bit later. Thanks, Kev. Thanks, Phil. Teresa, remember to unmute yourself. Thank you.
Hi. Yeah, I just want to explore a little bit more what a feeling is. Like, some pupils, I find, they don't actually understand their own feelings. And it's not until you're sort of a little way down the line that you can get them to understand and recognize that those emotions or those feelings are having an impact on their driving. But I think when you do, you can actually get some good work done when they start recognizing that their emotions are playing a big part in how they are approaching situations that they're really not feeling comfortable in.
Yeah, I totally agree. And discussing feelings in the first place is uncomfortable for a lot of people. It's uncomfortable. Yeah. It's uncomfortable for driving instructors. I don't want to say, how do you feel? It's the Mickey tape question I hear all the time. Oh, you're a coach, so you just ask people how they feel. How do you feel? If it helps, change the word to think. It's still, yeah. It's still.
Yeah.
So, how long does that barrier last?
Do you think it makes a difference if you are comfortable with your feelings and expressing your feelings, that they then feel comfortable with expressing their feelings, their thoughts?
Yeah, and to take the pressure off somehow. Yeah. And just to say, well, you don't have to say anything now, but I was thinking or feeling that something was going on. We can talk about it later if it helps, and then just take the pressure off, and then it gives them a time to acclimatize to that. But sometimes if you just change the feel word to a think word, because I feel they're kind of linked. I don't know what Di's thinking. I'm curious to know what Di's thinking, but I think, and it could be what Di's feeling about what I'm saying. Do you see what I mean? I'm interested in other people's opinions, certainly interested in everybody's opinion here of the differences between the two words. But I think, Teresa, you've hit on a subject that some people are very comfortable and they know it, but it's sometimes you just need to acknowledge that that is a barrier, isn't it? And back off and then come to it later. Have you got any other ways that you've thought about helping get over that first hurdle?
I've got a couple of very, very highly anxious pupils, and I find that we tend to have a lot more conversations about sort of their anxiety and what they're really worried about doing, and them actually talking about how they're feeling beforehand and then approaching it in very small steps makes them feel a lot more comfortable and confident with what they're going to do and how they're going to do things.
Yeah, brilliant.
But other people, I mean, you're going to have people that really they don't feel. I mean, my son's Asperger's, so when I was teaching him, there's no feelings involved in it. It's just, I've got to do this methodically. I've got to do it this way, and this way. But you ask him how he's feeling, I don't know.
Yeah,
Doesn't understand.
and it's irrelevant. Yes, so it's irrelevant for some people. They're just, you know, they're just cut off. If he is getting distressed, he will let you know, though, probably.
Oh yeah.
So in that case, that's where you, with your intuition, thanks, Di, your intuition, especially knowing him so well, you can intervene. But it's being aware, and I'm thinking of Sammy and her little post-it note. You'll be aware of him, A, because you know him so well, and B, the body language and all the rest of it. It was, have you finished, Teresa? Are you all right? Brilliant. Come back and say things in a bit. I'm not sure if Terry put his hand up.
Neil.
Yeah, Neil did for sure. Yeah, Neil first and then Di, please.
Okay, so just touching on a little bit there, what Teresa said. I think it's actually around the culture that we start to build from now. There's so much pressure on people that throws the anxiety because they want to be seen to be doing the right thing all the time. So they're trying to hide their anxiety, but it gets to a certain point where it just gets too much for them. And that's where you can see the body language start to appear without them even saying anything. So I think a lot of it is to do with a culture and a society we actually start to live in now. I don't know what everybody else thinks to that.
Thumbs up. Who thinks they agree with Neil? Yeah. A lot of us are not really in agreement, but that's just how it goes. Thanks, Neil. I think there is a lot of pressure on getting past all the rest of it. We spoke about that, touched on that last week. Di?
Thanks, Fiona. Again, it's going back to what Teresa was saying, really. I think there's two words involved, intuition and body language, because she's quite right. Pupils don't often like to talk about feelings. And sometimes they're even unaware that they're feeling something, or they can't name or put a name to it. And so sometimes I think it's quite good to have a comparison between what they're good at and what they're not so good at. So let them do something they're really confident at and ask them how that felt and why they think they're so confident with it. And then let them have 10 minutes of doing something they're not so confident with, and then asking them how that felt and why they think that felt in that way compared to something they're really confident with. And what do they think they need to, what do they need in order to feel more confident?
Yeah.
I think we've all experienced, you know, the people that gets in the car and is driving like a maniac when normally they're quite ploddy. And then you have a conversation with them. So what have you been doing this morning? They say, oh, well, I've been in a real rush. I thought I was going to be late for the lesson. And I had to do this quickly. I had to do that quickly. And yeah, okay, well, just drive for the next 5 minutes and just be aware of how you're driving compared to how you normally drive. Because then they can actually identify that emotional, that feeling, or that thought, and see how it affects their behaviour.
Self-reflection. Nice. That's a really good point. In fact, would you agree then that it doesn't really matter what name they give it?
No, not at all.
If they're feeling, there's two basic feelings: comfortable and okay, and uncomfortable. It doesn't matter
Absolutely.
what the title is.
No.
So,
What's more important, I think, is for them to be more self-aware. So it doesn't matter what label they give it. It's just about letting them recognise it, rather than saying to them, "Oh, you're driving a bit quick today." Just let them be aware. Okay, I just want you to drive 5 minutes. I just want you to be aware of how you're driving compared to how you normally drive, and then have a conversation.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I think it was Steve next, and then Lee, coming to you in a minute.
It was just Gemma on Facebook has said recognizing someone's feelings and just to notice them can be enough for people to feel supported in their thoughts that occur and work through them. Some feelings noted are subtle. It's the undertones and the unsaid at times that are mostly important in the barriers of learning that I've found. Setting that first lesson precedent, let them know that how they feel is the most important thing to the process and to the learning journeys that's going to be undertaken.
Nice. So no one's come up with any acronyms yet. Oh no, Di, you did earlier. You did the identify, analyze and remedy thing, whatever that is.
I think
Those.
while I'm unmuted as well, I think sometimes faults are very factual, aren't they? So it's a very matter of factual thing. And I think sometimes facts are very good at invalidating emotions. So
Yeah.
yeah, you counteract how somebody's feeling with a fact. It's like saying, well, doesn't matter. It's not important. This is how it is. And you've then invalidated what they're thinking and feeling at that time without even asking why they're thinking and feeling it.
Yeah. So in those moments of support, when I have a conversation and talk to somebody before they go to their pupil to pick them up before their standards check, if I say what I've heard myself say to learner drivers, don't be nervous, just do everything I told you to do, you'll be fine. And I don't say that to ADIs, and I'm really glad I don't. What a dreadful thing to do. And you're right, when you talk about that, and it does trivialize. I think it's even worse than invalidate. I think it's much more hurtful. Potentially depends on the person. I know how I feel with that. Thanks, Steve. There was someone else. Oh, it was Lee, then Terry. Gotcha.
I just wondered whether sometimes the issue when we have barriers with people around feelings, whether it may be just down to using feelings and questions around feelings only when there's an issue, and actually just using it all the time, you know, when something's just gone normally, when something's, you know, do we use it? Is it just that we, or that they link these questions to, you know, extreme situations rather than just to everything?
That's a really good point. Really good point. I'm surprised Steve isn't clamping at the bit, or Kev with the NLP, where we're thinking about anchoring things in the present in a pleasant. So when you anchor when it goes well, when you anchor that kind of thing, or when you say, actually, how are you feeling at the moment? And you, you know, this is not my skill set. I've just got little fingers in little pies. You guys are the experts. But from what I've heard about anchoring and certainly acknowledging, you know, it's really important not to just have those conversations. You're right, absolutely spot on, Lee. I like that one.
And that links back to what Di said about, you know, if they're not driving or they're driving differently, get them to drive how they normally would and notice the difference. And that's, you know, very similar to that. You know, showing the two sides of things is quite interesting. That helps enormously because they can work it out for themselves then.
And they also acknowledge, how do I get from one state, and I don't mean state as in, I mean one set of feelings into the other set of feelings, which is for them a safer version of them as a driver. Yeah. Thank you. It was Terry.
Morning all.
Morning.
Two things. Firstly, Anthony, I know where you're at. You're where I was, and a lot of us were a few years ago. Stick with it. Next time you feel like, you know what, sod it, I'll just tell them. just ask them one more. Just go for one more question. And it does get easier, and you will start feeling more confident with it. So keep on with it, Anthony. Secondly, humans are emotional beings. Emotion is always our first response to stuff. And I think if we're coaching, what are you laughing at?
That's so true. It's so true. Sorry. Just so
If
true.
we are coaching, we're trying to look at this long-term behavioural change, and part of the process is helping your customer understand how their feeling will affect their behaviour, and getting them, like I think it was Diet said about self-awareness. That's so important, because then what they can then start to do is they can look at a behaviour, doesn't have to be driving related, and just think, you know what, this could be 2 years after they've passed or left you or whatever. You know what, I know why I behaved like that. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make them their self-awareness about how they're feeling, what they're thinking about at the time, how that affects their behaviour. And it helps in life, not just in driving. It helps with relationships. It helps with bringing up kids. And this is vital. If we're going to make a difference to those KSI stats, this is what we have to do. We have to make them aware of how their emotions are affecting their behaviour. And it's always the emotion that happens first. We can't change that. And it's about digging and investigating and finding out the root cause of the problems, not the fact they've cut a bloody corner off. And traditionally, this is where we get frustrated, like Dice said, go around the block 10 times, they still can't get it. What's wrong with these stupid people? They can't not get a corner cut, or they can't stop cutting a corner. And it's just stop. What are you thinking about? How are you feeling? Sort that out. The corner cut won't happen, like Di said. It's about long-term change. I'm done now.
Thanks, Terry. I have a good example, but I'm talking about me again, so I'll bring that up. But it's about what you were talking about, Terry, and how quick that emotional reaction is. So I'll do that, but I'm going to go for Anthony first. If we have a lull, I'll remember my little bit of my little addition.
Okay, hello again.
Hiya.
Yeah, interesting. So I'm quite happy with the ideas of what everybody's saying. You know, emotions are a first response. I think one thing is, I hate people asking me how I'm feeling. I really don't like it. And one reason for that is that I've had experience of people who do these courses in things such as NLP, non-violent communication, and so on. And I feel I'm being manipulated.
Oh, yeah.
Asking me about how I feel and trying to draw me out, and I don't trust it. That's where some of it comes from. And it's probably why I'm not comfortable, you know, working with pupils in that way. I can see the sense in what everybody's saying, but for me, it's a barrier. It's like a...
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Could you know where I was talking earlier, and rather than asking how someone's feeling, if you ask them what they're thinking about in that moment, could that work?
That I have tried that, because it avoids the word feeling. But I would say I'm still not quite confident with doing that.
Yeah, that's interesting, because it's your history with the feeling words and how you felt manipulated. That's really interesting. It's a really good bit of self-reflection. That I like that. There are plenty of things that I've been uncomfortable with in the past, and it's a case of working through you've seen what your barrier is. So a solution, maybe one won't come today, but it seems like you're seeking one. I like that. finding your own solution. It'd be
Yeah.
interesting. It'd be interesting to know if you find one and when that would be, when that solution would come. I've got Steve,
Yeah.
and I don't think anyone else is waiting. As long as you finished, Anthony. I don't want to cut anybody off. Steve was first, then Lee.
It's just Gemma on Facebook said curveball, just to be aware of our own emotions and feelings on that day and in that lesson could be portrayed by the pupil, and that could potentially affect positively and negatively on the lesson and the progress of the pupil. So kind of our
Totally agree. Yeah. Who said that?
own. Gemma.
Well done, Gemma. Love it. Yeah. Yeah. I know that I'm guilty of that, but then it's how, you know, our professional persona is to be emotionless, I suppose, and objective in the moment. Very hard to do when life's going on at us. Very hard to do. We all tend to do it. Yeah.
Sammy said when pupils get a positive response, they are more likely to repeat that behaviour to get the same feeling. So you're boosting self-esteem and confidence.
Yeah, yeah, too true. Thanks for that. Yeah, I forgot to keep checking in on the Facebook. I'm glad you interrupted me and saying it. I'm really glad. Thanks, Steve. Lee.
Yeah, just I've got a question for Anthony. I just wondered whether he sees the benefits of working with emotions, and whether he feels like the barriers are his own, or whether he feels like the barriers are his pupils.
To answer that, they're probably my own. It's you know, like going into a no-go area.
Yeah, but do you see the benefits of dealing with emotions? Do you understand, or do you agree? Sorry, we'll probably be about where we're asking, that it's the emotion that drives the behaviour, that motivates behaviour. It's the first response.
Probably. Yeah, I'm quite happy with the theory.
Mm-hmm.
It's the, you know, the actual, when it actually comes, you know, the personal working through a problem that I'm not comfortable with.
But you're looking for a solution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Solutions why he's sitting here, I think. Brilliant, brilliant. I will just say the thing. John, I'm conscious that you haven't said anything, and Graham, I'm conscious that you haven't said anything. Please just put your hand up if you want to say anything. If you're happy to be part of it and just take it in for now, that's fine. I'm not urging you. Just reminding you, Ian, you haven't spoken either. You don't have to, but I'm just conscious of it. Terry, I'm just going to do one thing and then you can be next. I just want to say the thing about how instant our reaction and our emotional reaction is. Going to give you one scenario. You're driving along the road, but it's a Groundhog Day moment. So you're driving along the road, somebody cuts you up. They cut you up. You know for sure they did it on purpose. They cut you up. What's your reaction? Reaction is grr, and we're going to go, you know, we're going to use those, whatever it is. I've got to let Sammy in. So you're going to have an emotional reaction, which is you cut me up, I had to brake harshly, and then the behavior is whatever you choose to do. But let's have the groundhog moment, go back in time. Exactly the same person cuts you up, you have to react in the same way, but that person then looks at you and goes, oh, sorry, and they put their hand up, and you start with the first reaction, which was you, and then it changes. When they do that apology and you acknowledge it as being genuine, you then go, oh, that's all right, but it was a bit scary. In that, with the two scenarios, exactly the same thing, we can have the different reaction and we can go back to being that passive calm because somebody's acknowledged how we might feel or how we would react. And that's how quick an emotional reaction is and how we all recognize it. When someone cuts you up and they apologize and you know it's genuine, we just relax. Would everybody agree with, well, just one person nod? Thank you. So that's why I'm giving that analogy, because we do react, we are emotional beings, and it is that quick. I'm, you know, stepping down off my, thanks, Di. I'm stepping down off my high horse now. Who was next? Who wanted, oh, Terry.
Thanks, Fiona. Top example, man. Just also want to say two things again. Lovely Linda's not said anything either yet.
Oh, I know, lovely Linda, but sometimes she's just here for me. Steve, got you.
I just want to, sorry, going to go see first. Or what? Am I?
No,
am
you're
I still
first,
going?
Terry.
I'm still going.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, you're still
Sorry.
going.
I just want to give an example about how emotions play a part in driving. In St Albans, we have this very famous steep hill. And if you're watching in near St Albans, you know exactly what I'm talking about. First word's Holywell, second word's hill. And when you have pupils or people who live in St Albans or know about Holywell Hill, and as soon as they know they're going to it for the first time, fear of God. Oh no, you're taking me. Oh no, oh, I can't do this. When all that starts. If I have somebody who doesn't know St Albans and they go up the hill, there is none of that at all. And it still amazes me how someone who doesn't know about Holywell Hill and its tradition and its the fear behind it, because all the kids talk about it in school. You done Holywell Hill, yeah, you know, all that. And when there isn't that in the background, they just deal with it as any other road. And it amazes me still how different it is from having that negativity about this road to having no feelings about this road, and how the emotion can just take over people's behavior like that.
Yeah,
that was all.
The anticipated emotion, absolutely.
Yeah.
The anticipated one. Yeah, so it's even before the real one happens. Ah, lovely Linda. Oh, Steve, I think it was Steve first. Steve, Linda first. All right, Steve first.
Oh, it's just on Facebook again. Danny has said, I always say from the first lesson, don't worry about making mistakes. We can all learn from our mistakes. I think then students become more comfortable to talk about their thoughts and feelings.
Yeah, absolutely. Who was that? Because I want to say thank you.
Danny Gibson.
Oh, Danny, good. Oh yeah, Danny. Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah, I often acknowledge my mistake. You know, it could just be that I'm a couple of minutes late. Di, gotcha. Yeah, and it's really important when we acknowledge our own or say what happened to us in the past, talk about an emotional reaction. Yeah, thanks, Steve and Danny. Oh, go on.
I was just going to say, I think as well, I've noticed, you know, there is no such thing as a perfect driver. And I think sometimes when you are driving to and from site, maybe like where you're training, especially at the beginning, sometimes it's actually good for them to see you make a little bit of a mistake where you're like, even if it's a bit of a faux mistake, sometimes it's good for them to see, because it acknowledges the fact that don't strive for perfection, because you're never going to find it. Just strive for progress. So, and the fact
Nice.
the fact that I'm really good at making mistakes. So.
Your part two must have been a nightmare. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Steve. Lovely, Linda.
I was just going to say something in response to Terry, really. Hello, I'm speaking. But apart from that, what I was going to say is I agree with what you're saying about Holywell Hill, and we get the same here with the Dome Roundabout, where everybody just sort of congregates on this one roundabout. And the way I speak about it, before we even do anything, I say, you know, we start talking in a positive way about it. I love this roundabout. You don't have to make any decisions whatsoever. You just go, you know, and it's just, it just changes things. And then people just look at it and they say, well, that was nowhere near as bad as I thought it was going to be, you know, and it's just talking in a positive way about it, and it just changes everything. rather than saying, oh my God, now we're going to go to this roundabout and it's really, really busy. You know, everybody gets in the wrong lane. But just speak about it in a positive way. It's a traffic light roundabout, and you've got no decisions because the traffic lights make them decisions for you. So it just changes everything, and it just makes it easier. And another thing that I find is that if a parent doesn't like a specific junction or Holywell Hill, if a parent doesn't like it, it generally transfers onto the student, because all those negative feelings of the parent beforehand is just taken on board. Or my mum can't do this, my mum hates this roundabout, or my mum hates this hill, or whatever, and they all get taken on there. So those feelings are just sort of inbred, I suppose, in a way, before they've even decided, before they've even done it themselves. It's there, the feeling is there already because the parent has instilled that into them.
Fabulous. I think you're right. You're right. It's Neil in a second, then Terry, but was it Di? Did you put your hand up a while ago, Di? Yeah, Di. As long as you finish, Linda, sorry.
Okay, yeah, I mean, this is really connected to what Linda was saying, but it's a personal thing for me, I think. I wrote a blog about this a little while ago, funnily enough, about our own emotions, you know, that I used to look at my diary and look at a particular name and think, God, why don't I book him in twice this week, for God's sake? And I wasn't actually conscious of it initially, but what I was doing was, because I found this pupil quite challenging, I used to give them a really easy route. I used to go left, and avoid anything that was challenging or difficult. And then I'd look at my diary and go, oh, great, I've got so-and-so, my star pupil. And I would make that lesson as challenging as possible. But it wasn't because they weren't capable. It wasn't because the one would go, oh, no, wasn't actually capable of driving well. It's because I was putting a restriction on them because of my view of that pupil. So I wanted to make it easy for me. But I wasn't conscious of it. And when I became conscious of it, I actually thought, right, I'm not going to have that attitude when I get in the car. This time, I'm going to treat that pupil as if they were my star pupil. And I got in the car with that attitude, and I made it as challenging as I would for my star pupil. And do you know what? He drove the best I've ever seen him drive. So it was my emotion about that pupil that was actually restricting the way he drove.
Yeah.
So it's just an example of how that can switch. It's not always the pupil. Sometimes it's actually the instructor who puts the barriers in the way for the pupil.
Yeah. I don't know why Anthony just came to my head there at all. I have no idea. No idea. No idea.
Can I say something? Or do you want someone else?
Thanks, Di. Who was that? Who's that?
Do you want me to say something or someone else?
I think you have the right because I mentioned you. Yes.
Okay.
No, because I mentioned you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it is often, you know, with when I think of what I've done in the car, it's often, you know, your own emotions which can get in the way of, you know, the way you work with it's not necessarily the other person. Yeah. While I'm on, I'll just very quickly say something else, which is, I mean, I've got 3 PDIs working with me at the moment, going for their 1 for part 2, 2 for part 3. But of course, we've had to scrap it all because of the situation we're in. I think the 2 that are going for part 3, I think I can get them through part 3 or work with them, and I think they'll achieve it. But I think in both cases, they're going to be better than me at working with pupils. Both.
Ooh.
because they're more comfortable with doing this sort of stuff. So I just wanted to put what I'm saying in a bit of a context.
Yeah.
Because you have mentioned instructor training as well.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. I think it's brilliant. It's brilliant. But there is a solution for you, and I think you will find it because you've got a target. Yeah, there is potential. Love what you say, Anthony.
Okay.
Now I've completely forgotten. I think it's Neil, right?
Neil.
Was it Neil next? Been waiting ages. Thank you.
It's just building on what Linda said, really, and a little bit of what Di said. It's driving instructors having that empathy to understand the feelings of others and be able to share them in a different way or put a different perspective on it to make it a lot easier for them to attempt it, shall we say? That's the way I was perceiving it from Linda, to be quite honest.
Being honest as well, Neil, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's being open with them as well, honest, open, and just being able to translate them feelings across to them that it ain't really that scary. Let's look at it and let's take it step by step if that's what's needed.
Yeah. Step by step, tiny solutions rather than the bigger picture. Just what's the first step? What is the first tiny step into achieving a tiny goal? It doesn't have to be the whole bigger picture of things. Just the next, what will I do? What will I explore? What will I investigate? And that was the thing that I benefited from when I attended the course that changed my career. I don't like talking about it too much, but I couldn't find solutions to those bigger issues the same way that Anthony is struggling. I couldn't find solutions because I needed tiny stepping stones, and something else gave me that way of doing it. Other people. Was there anyone else? Can you put your hands up? Anyone else clamping at the bit? Because our hour is up.
Yeah.
And like I said, we tend to get a cue at the end. Do think about it, but before that, going to get Kev to do a bit of a recap because hopefully he remembered.
It's all in my head, Fiona. It's all in my head.
Good. You're so good at a recap. You're so good.
God. I don't know what's going to come out, but it's all in my head. Okay, so we started off with feelings affect our behaviour. That was from Lee. And highlighting the fault stops learning, from Steve. And then Anthony was saying he knows the theory, but sometimes he gets lost, and it's easier just to tell them what to do as it's easier. Solution focused. If they know the process, what's happened, what was they thinking or feeling? So something must have happened before to have made that mistake. That was from Guy. And Sammy said, focus. Where is their focus? Is it preventing their learning or is it accelerating their learning? The feeling might have started before the fault. That came from Phil. Thoughts and feelings are linked and how we're connected with them as well. That was from Teresa. Intuition and body language has how we noticed how someone's feeling. Try what they're good at. Try what they're not good at. How did both of them feel? Get them to identify the emotion or what's happened. Get them to be self-reflecting on the two drives. What was the difference? That was from Di. If we invalidate their thoughts and feelings by telling them it's okay. So sometimes they can be demotivated if you invalidate their thoughts or feelings. That was Steve. Terry said, stick with it. We've all been there. It is hard sometimes when we're looking at emotions because we've been brought up not to deal with emotions. Just get on with it. Just do it. But as humans, we are very emotional, as Terry said. Facebook from Gemma, our own emotions affect the lesson. to how we are affects the lesson. Thoughts and feelings can change, as you said. Fiona's little story. Emotions take over our behaviour. Being positive can change the feeling, from Linda, about roundabouts. And I'll just summarise with just my little thing. There's no failure, there's only feedback. Is a little quote that I quite like as well. There you go, that's my little summary done.
Thanks, Kev. I really like it. It's a good. So, would it work to just watch the end and see the summary? I don't know. Do you need to go through the trauma or the rest of the listening? Could you just fast forward? So, at the beginning of the next one, what I should say is, if you're not really interested in this, fast forward. Hear Kev's summary to find out if it's worth listening to. I think.
I might mix the bits up next week.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, it is important, because I know some of us have been talking about what we're doing on the next thing, and I've written it down on my. Who remembers? Kev, do you remember what we're doing next time? Terry? Sammy's the one with the facts. She remembers. Neil, you remember what we're doing next?
Neil knows. Neil knows.
Neil knows. Remember to unmute yourself before you talk. Okay.
I'm just having a look at a minute. Why don't you ask simple questions?
Yeah.
I have found a list.
Yeah, I've got my list, and we came up with the rest of us. I've got my list, but I was talking anyway. I'll put it up. I'll put at the end of this what the next one is. I'll put another advert up. I would say thank you to everybody on Facebook for trolling through this. Do get involved. You don't have to do anything. You can come on and you can sit there, and you don't have to feel any pressure to say anything. I do love it when new people come. Teresa and Anthony, it really does make a difference. It isn't about, because these guys will always just come back on because we're all bored and we want to do something. I need to do something to keep me entertained and to keep my brain fresh. So having conversations is all I want to do. It seems to be working. We've got more planned. The Why Don't You series is continuing. I can't help it. It's just something to do. Has anyone else got anything they really need to say before I close the meeting down and end Facebook?
Friday at 11, next one.
Friday, the date of April.
17th.
Something like that. Friday of this week. Yeah, Friday the 17th of April. We're doing another Facebook Zoom. You need to, when I put the advert up, that's when a point, because there is starting to be a waiting list. So if you can PM me, when you see the advert go up, please PM me if you want to be involved, because I have to do it first come, first served. Otherwise, I'm going to feel bad about it. But those of you that know me know that I know I've got my, but do it. We need new fresh faces. It's much fun. Thank you, guys. Are you all okay?
Thanks very
much.
Thank you all.
Thanks very much.
Take
everybody.
care. I'm going to end Facebook Live first, so thank you for watching on Facebook, and I'll see you all probably next week. Thank you.
Please do.
Thanks.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.